Now, dear listener, you know I've talked to you a lot on the Politicrat Daily podcast about making your own podcast. And let me tell you something, Anchor gives you the best opportunity to do that. It's free of charge. Yes, it's free. And there are lots of creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your own phone or computer. How about that? And you can even add songs to your podcast from Spotify. It's really wonderful. You can do this, and it really is very easy. And Anchor will even distribute your podcast for you. It can be heard on all kinds of platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And you can make some money too. And money making is a good thing. It's everything you need in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome to the Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore. It is Saturday, June the 5th, 2021. On this edition of the Politicrat, California, specifically San Francisco, California, and some things you really need to be aware of about this city. It is racist as hell here.
San Francisco? Yeah. Oh, man, I'm going to tell you about San Francisco. San Francisco ain't did anything. I mean, ever since I got out of high school, I had a couple of jobs. I worked at a couple of hat companies and warehouses. I mean, after a while, they say, I guess we're going to lay you off for a couple of weeks, you know. All right, they talk about the South. The South is not half as bad as San Francisco. You want me to tell you about San Francisco? Yes, sir. I'll tell you about San Francisco. The white man, he's not taking advantage of you out in public like they're doing down in Birmingham, but he's killing you with that pencil and paper, brother. When you go to look for a job, can you get a job? Can you get a job, Winkle?
This is San Francisco Americans pretend does not exist. They think I'm making it up.
That was Famios Bell, and the last voice you heard was that of James Baldwin from the 1964 documentary Take This Hammer, directed by a member of the Global Moore family named Richard Moore. He directed the film chronicling the spring of 1963 here in San Francisco, California. And today's episode of the Politicrat Daily podcast, and thank you for listening, is about San Francisco. And I'm going to be playing another portion of Take This Hammer. And I'm also going to be playing you some other audio from San Francisco in 2021. And an incredible 7-minute audio bit that you are going to hear. I'm not even going to tell you what the audio is about. I just want to play it for you. I think that's the best way to really just listen to this. I don't want to prepare you for it. I want you to go into the audio that I'm going to play a little bit later on cold. And I'm not even going to hint at it because, I just want you to go into this cold. You just have to listen to this audio that I'll play a little later. You just have to listen to it. It's going to be about 7 minutes and change. Here in San Francisco, California, you have to just listen to this. And I think it took place recently. You're going to hear what you're going to hear, I believe took place recently, very recently, but it was definitely this year. And then I will talk a bit more about it afterwards. So that's a little cryptic perhaps, but you will understand. And I think the best way to do this is to just play the audio. San Francisco, California. Now look, it's very nice and sunny. At the time I'm recording this, it's beautiful and sunny out here. And I tell you, nothing beats getting up here early in the morning and just looking at the city, especially if you're in a part of the city where you're living and you have these great views where you're living. It's just incredible when the sun is out, particularly. And I know the fog, and people love the fog, and I like the fog too. But when the sun is out here, wow, it's just amazing. Just like it would be, I'm sure, obviously, in lots of other great places around the world. You go to Barcelona and the sun is out, and some of the views there are just unreal. And you go to Malaga, also in Spain, I think in the south. Malaga's more toward the south of Spain. And the views there are just incredible. Just incredible. Lots of parts of Spain are just is absolutely beautiful. And the same goes for anywhere else in the world where you might go and the sun is shining and it's just breathtaking. But I play that very bit of audio that you just heard. Farmios Bell, also known as Jackie Bell, is talking to a reporter, an interviewer. And he said, I'll tell you about San Francisco, the white man. He's not taking advantage of you out in public like they're doing down in Birmingham, but he's killing you with that pencil and paper, brother. And he's talking about the realities of the economic hardships and the oppression of black people in the communities. And I mention all of this in there under obviously the racism that is coming from the white power structure, from white people in the city of San Francisco, and of course trying to find a job in San Francisco. This is 1963. This is at the time where the fight for voting rights for black people is going on in the country. The fight for civil rights and the Civil Rights Bill, the fight to get that done is going on in the United States. In 1963, Medgar Evers, this is around the time, I think Medgar Evers had been assassinated in 1963, and it may have been around this time that this documentary was being filmed. And the documentary Take This Hammer, which is the documentary I'm referring to, is centered in the Bayview area of San Francisco, which historically has been a black neighborhood in San Francisco. It is now very much gentrified, and there are some black people still there, but it's a whole different ballgame now. It's gentrified. There's very, very few places now in San Francisco that aren't gentrified. And there are very, very few places where black people even live in San Francisco. Black people make up less than 5. I've ranged it from 3 to 6, but it's less than 6% of the population of the city of San Francisco, which has 910,000 people in it. Less than 6% of that number are black living in San Francisco, California. Think about that. Think about that for a second. And a lot of the black people who live here in San Francisco are concentrated in Hunters Point, in parts of the Bayview, in parts of the Fillmore, and those areas, and maybe one or two other areas as well, parts of North Beach. But aside from those 3 or 4 areas I've just mentioned, black people are non-existent here in San Francisco in terms of living here. And you do find some black people living in other parts of the city. So I don't want to make it seem as if the only places to find black people are in those areas. Although, again, this is what gentrification does. This is what so-called urban renewal does, or as James Baldwin calls it, Negro removal. Because that's what it is. It's what it is. Since the 1950s, the Fillmore District, which is a booming black district in San Francisco, has become less and less black, and more vanilla, more and more white, more and more gentrified, more and more no soul to it, nothing. And you only see relics of the Fillmore District in its day. The jazz club, the blues club, the this club, the that club. There's these little pockets. But overall, you see, if you go north of a certain street, this is how cruel and evil this is. You can always tell who lives where by the way the businesses in the neighborhood looks. It's totally like that all over the United States. And you walk north of, let me see if I can get my geography right in my head here. If you walk north of Geary Street and you're on Fillmore, you notice that neighborhood becomes more and more white and more gentrified. If you walk south of Geary Street and you're on Fillmore walking south of Geary Street, the neighborhood becomes more and more black, and you can tell that by looking around. I mean, this is how crude and insidious all of this is. It's really cruel and crude. But I wanted to just start with that, because you also heard James Baldwin say that people like to think that San Francisco, and I'm paraphrasing him now, you already heard what he had to say there at the beginning, and that's at the start of the documentary. And James Baldwin says people like to think that San Francisco is this place. You know, it's very different from what people like to think of San Francisco as. And that's really true. And every time I tell people this about San Francisco, people are shocked. Even in 2021, they're shocked. Really? San Francisco? And I say, yes, San Francisco. As someone who's been living here for a fair amount of time, I should know. I have my experiences of this too, as do a lot of other people, a lot of black people in particular. And Take This Hammer, by the way, is a documentary I strongly recommend that you watch. There are 2 versions of it. I know I've said this a billion times about these newsletters that I haven't been doing, and I've been so sorry. I am so sorry that I've just continually, I would say broken promises, but I guess I would say lie. Although it's not necessarily that I'm intentionally deceiving someone or you, because there's just so many hours in a day. And I think I'm going to switch around how this gets done. But there's going to be a link that you'll be getting if you subscribe to this newsletter of the full version of this documentary. There's 2 editions of the documentary. One of them is around 45 minutes. You can find that on YouTube anywhere. The other documentary edition of Take This Hammer is the full original 59-minute version, 1 hour long version of the documentary, which you can't find on YouTube, but I have tracked it down on another website from San Francisco State University, and you need to watch that. It's really important. I believe it's San Francisco State University. You have to watch that full edition. And here was the rationale. According to the director, Richard Moore, a member of the global Moore family, says 15 minutes were cut from his original version of Take This Hammer by order of KQED. Now, KQED is a PBS affiliate here in San Francisco, and they still exist. By order of KQED's board of directors, some of whom felt the film cast San Francisco's race relations in an overly negative way. One board member stated that, quote, "I believe we would all agree that it is not the function of KQED to produce inflammatory, distorted, sacrilegious, extremist programming under the name of educational television. I believe this program is all of these." Oh my goodness. Yes, that is someone on the board of directors at KQED in 1963. And I just think that, or 1964, excuse me, because the broadcast of this documentary was on February 4th of 1964. This is just, there you go. People on public broadcast affiliates, public broadcasting, are bringing these racist views. Because listen, the word N does not have to be spoken for someone to say or be racist. It's the attitude, it's the viewpoint. How on earth could what I just played to you, what you just heard, how on earth could that audio that I just played to you, that you just heard, be inflammatory and sacrilegious and extremist? Under the name of educational television, he says. I'm assuming it's a he. I believe this program is all of the... See, that's the problem. And this existence and this attitude that racist people have, that white people who are racist have, is the kind of thing that permeates the country. I mean, this is no different from Texas and all of these other states passing laws. 12 different states now are passing these laws. Oh, you better not educate people about the Tulsa Massacre or about American history because it might make some white people feel uncomfortable. And that is no different from this board member at KQED in 1964 saying, oh, this is inflammatory, distorted, sacrilegious, extremist programming. Under the name of educational TV, it's educational because there's lots of people who don't know about San Francisco being the racist place that it is. And I know there'll be people that say, well, why are you living here? Why are you living in a place? You have the right to live wherever you choose to live, hopefully. And I kind of put those words in some kind of quotes and asterisks because you know there are sundown towns in this country. And I dare say that some of those sundown towns are still here. I mean, we've got to remember, and you've got to remember, we all have to remember, that there were sundown towns all over this country, not just in the South. Everybody loves to point to the South. There were sundown towns all over the United States of America. There were sundown towns here in California, not far from here. There were lynchings in California. There were killings of black people in California, here in San Francisco. People have to start waking up to history. And now there's this attempt by the white minority regime that holds on to power on the edge of the cliff that it's dangling from in the face of a black and brown and Asian and Native America that is here and ain't going away. It is not going away. We are not going away. And now you're getting all this desperation coming from people in the white power structure. Oh, we've got to pass all these laws so you don't know history because they don't want their white kids to learn, a la Tom Hanks, that the Tulsa race massacre was a thing, you know, and did happen. And so, because if they learn that, oh, these younger white kids, maybe they'll start to question their adult white persons who are in power and might have to stand up on the side of righteousness alongside black folk and brown folk and some Asian folk and some Native folk and some progressive people who are white, who have a sense of themselves and of history and have a consciousness about them. And we can't teach those younger white kids this because, that's the real deal here. It's not about discomfort. It's about you're afraid that some young white kids might get an idea and start to question and challenge the power structure that oppresses black folk and brown folk. And maybe they won't vote for you, or maybe they won't vote for anybody like you who represents you and represents what you stand for and therefore is oppressive and racist. And they don't want anything to do with that. Maybe you're afraid that the knowledge might just get them to thinking that maybe they should stand on the side of righteousness and that it doesn't pay to be on the side of the racists. I mean, maybe some people think it does pay because in some ways it does. But I'm saying that half facetiously because obviously it doesn't pay to be racist because, especially in 2021, you find out right quick what's going on if you dare play up that way. We've seen it. Organizations pulling out of this, pulling out of that. We're not sponsoring this. We're not sponsoring that. Atlanta. Oh, no, you're not hosting the All-Star game. We're going to move it to Colorado. Bye. You're passing these laws to prevent black folk and brown folk and Asian folk and native folk from voting and poor whites from voting. Bye. We're leaving you. We're going to go to Colorado. This is what I'm saying. This is 2021. But just because it is 2021 doesn't mean that we are now past the stage that we can take off our history hats. Just like people are taking off their masks. Oh, I'm fully vaccinated, mask off. And I know it's a personal choice. But it doesn't mean that we should now think that one history lesson is enough. And it doesn't mean that racism doesn't exist, because it clearly exists. It's been here forever. And so take this hammer, which features James Baldwin in his 1963 tour of San Francisco, California, is a revealing look at a San Francisco that still exists. And it's a fascinating documentary. The interviews that are done are vivid. And just because it was 1963, just because it was nearly 60 years ago, doesn't mean that what is spoken of in that documentary does not exist today, does not persist today in 2021 and beyond. So it just goes to show you 15 minutes of Richard Moore's documentary, Take This Hammer, was cut by people at the KQED board of directors. You're not going to be able to show this on KQED on a public channel unless you cut these 15 minutes out, because it casts San Francisco, you see, in such an overly negative way. So you're not worried about the racism that makes San Francisco the negative, overly negative place. And the San Francisco where Asian women and Asian young men and Asian old men are being beaten and killed. And where Asian women, elderly Asian women in particular, are being attacked. And Asian women who are younger are being dragged. Any person, any Asian person, any human being, period, being dragged by a car in broad daylight here in San Francisco, California in 2021. Oh, so that's you don't want to portray that. You don't want that in your documentary, you see. You want that cut out. Just like you in Texas and in all these other states. You don't want history to be taught about Tulsa, about these massacres, about anything to do with enslavement. Ooh, we want to cut that out because it might make white people feel uncomfortable. James Baldwin, by the way, in Take This Hammer says there is no moral distance between the facts of life in San Francisco and the facts of life in Birmingham. If you watch the documentary I Am Not Your Negro, directed by Raoul Peck, released in 2016 and Oscar nominated, it lost out to a documentary on O.J. Simpson. In the I Am Not Your Negro documentary, which I've talked about a lot of times, I've given away several times here on this podcast, there is a moment in the documentary where Samuel L. Jackson, who is voicing James Baldwin when James Baldwin is not on screen in archival footage, says there is no difference. And it's done in a different way, but he says white people think that there is no moral difference between Birmingham and Los Angeles, or Los Angeles and Birmingham. And that was taken directly from Take This Hammer. So what Raoul Peck did as the director of I Am Not Your Negro is he took out San Francisco and put in Los Angeles. Maybe because I guess he felt that I'd have to ask him about this, but maybe I'm speculating it was because he felt that Los Angeles was more widely known and identifiable. And so putting Los Angeles in there made for a better comparison. That there's white people feel there's no moral difference between what's happening in Los Angeles and what's happening in Birmingham, something like that. You've got to watch. I mean, I'll try to get that proper quote for you, but it was actually San Francisco that James Baldwin talked about. San Francisco and Birmingham, because San Francisco has long been looked at as this bastion. You know, people go back to the Summer of Love, and by the way, the whole story isn't told about the Summer of Love either. It was the summer of people ODing and dying too, and women being violently attacked and violated, raped. So that doesn't get told in the Summer of Love. And of course there was a Summer of Love, but there was also a summer of rape. There was a summer of people ODing. And that never gets talked about. It rarely gets talked about when you talk about the Summer of Love in 1967 in San Francisco and other areas, but particularly here in San Francisco. But there's all of this myth-making is the point I'm trying to make here. And, you know, you think about Haight-Ashbury, which is completely gentrified now, and there's still parts of it here. When you go to Haight-Ashbury now, there's a lot of boutique stores there now. No one would have imagined that in the 70s or even in the 80s, that there would be all these boutique stores and these things here. And that's because of a lot of things to do with politicians who do this and all other kinds of things going on in the power structure. And what happens, and the power brokers in this town, and governments that do this to black people, tell them to leave. Look what happened in Greenwood. I played you clips of this. And by the way, the Greenwood documentary that you must watch tonight is called Dreamland, the burning of Black Wall Street, on CNN tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern U.S. time, 6 p.m. Pacific U.S. Very important documentary directed by Salina Koroma. And it's the same thing. This is going on all over the country, pushing black people out. Same thing, as I said, happened here in San Francisco in the 1950s. Pushing black people out. Urban renewal. Code word, as James Baldwin said, Negro removal. That's what it is. Same thing with Tulsa. I played a clip about that. The barber, I played it yesterday in yesterday's episode. The barber, the black barber who had his business there for many years. And then all of a sudden, he has to leave. They bulldoze his business. They bulldoze all these other remaining black businesses. And they don't allow them to rebuild. Oh, urban renewal. And they put these trees there. And where are these black people gone to? I mean, that's what they've done to us. That's what they did to the Native Americans. Forced them off their land, then have the nerve to call what's left, reservations over here for you. Reservations? 2 for dinner? And what the fuck is this? But that is what is going on and has been. But don't teach anybody this history because you know it might just make some people uncomfortable. Some white people might be a little uncomfortable with the history. I think what the white people who this applies to have to be uncomfortable with is that people who they may be tied to ancestrally did these heinous, evil, violent, murderous things. That's what the discomfort should be. And not only that, that discomfort should fuel you to go and talk to and teach other white people in your family or in your neighborhood, friends of yours, about this history and about challenging your own racism and your own bigoted feelings and why it is some or many, I would say, white people feel the way they do. Why are you behaving in this way? I've posed this question before. And that's the thing that doesn't get punctured and challenged enough. It's always when people talk about racism and racists, it's always a town hall with loads of black people in a room and someone asking them, the moderator, well, what do you think? And it's like there's one group of people who are never freaking in the room en masse. You might find a few, but you will never find the whole room of people in that room being white people. And that's what needs to happen. You need to have a town hall with entirely white people in that town hall. And they should be asking each other and challenging each other and talk about their anger and their hatred and their racism. Talk about why they feel the way they do. Challenge them to change, to be anti-racist. That's what the town hall should be. It shouldn't be have a load of black folk in a room, because we're not the problem. We're not the issue. And I think that's the thing that that a lot of people, in my view, many white people do not want to face. And I think that's really what the actual, core of this all is. And we've got to stop playing here. And we've got to get real. Because you can have a Tom Hanks editorial in the New York Times, but this ain't cutting it. This is not cutting it at all. You know, what if Tom Hanks says, well, I'm going to give up my role and I'm going to hire someone black. I'm going to hire a black woman to do my role, or I'm going to hire a black man to do my role. What if Tom Hanks did that? Because there are some white actors who have done that. Granted, they may not be a two-time Academy Award winner Tom Hanks, but they did that. Ed Skrein, I believe is his name, did that. I said, no, I'm not doing this role. There's an Asian actor who I think is better suited to this role for an Asian character in a superhero film, I think it was. And he declined. I think he turned down between, I don't know what it was, a few $1 million, so that you could have an Asian actor be in that role. And all these people who talk about Black Lives Matter in Hollywood, are they turning down roles to allow a black person in? Because Black Lives Matter is not only about, don't shoot us dead in the street. It's about black people having access to the opportunities that have been long denied them. It's about economics. It's about wealth building, wealth creation. It's about solidifying our businesses, protecting them the way you protect white businesses, giving us the contracts that you give out no bid to white businesses. You give out no bid contracts all the time to white businesses. And then black folk have to scrape and struggle to just get, that's what Black Lives Matter also is. So it's not only the only thing Black Lives Matter in the minds of some people, I think some people think it's only about, we don't want to be shot out here on these streets by cops or by anyone. I say that Black Lives Matter encompasses so much more. Obviously, it encompasses that, what I've just said. But it also encompasses something much, much more dimensional. And I say that at the risk of sounding like I'm trivializing Black Lives Matter and what it means. I'm not trivializing it. Not only do we have the right not to be gunned down out here by cops. We have the right to live and thrive. That's what we have a right to. We're human beings, in case people didn't know. We have the right to thrive. We have the right to an education. We have the right to be able to grow up in this world and have our kids grow up in this world without them being shot, without them being discriminated against, without them being absolutely sidelined, without them being ignored by the racists in the medical profession. The medical profession itself is racist. You know, we have a right to health care treatment. We have a right not to be sent home after we say, no, we've got a headache and it's really bad and we need to have tests run on us. And you're telling us, no, go home. Take 2 aspirin, call us in the morning if you're not dead. That's what Black Lives Matter also means. It also means business opportunities, job opportunities, wealth building. So, you know, these are the things that are profoundly important. And James Baldwin, visiting San Francisco in 1963, had a lot to say, and I urge you to watch the documentary Take This Hammer, the 59-minute director's cut, which is the original version. It's not really so much a director's cut as it is the original edition of it. The edition that you will see on YouTube is the 44-minute version, which has the 15 minutes taken out of it. And who wants to see a documentary that has 15 minutes cut out of it, especially when the original documentary is inclusive of those 15 minutes? Why would you want to see the version that's been cut down by some pissant board member of KQED back in 1964? Who wants that? In fact, it was not one person, it was some people at the board of directors. It's not just one. I mean, one person spoke out. And that person, I believe we would all agree that it's not, oh God. So anything that presents how Black people are facing these issues in San Francisco of racism, of discrimination, bigotry, being denied jobs, is something that is inflammatory? Really? Anything that concerns Black life is somehow inflammatory to you? Is that what that white board member, because he sure as heck wasn't someone Black or brown, or Asian, is that what some white board member at KQED in 1963 was saying? Is that what they were thinking? And why don't you just be honest and say you don't like Black people and you don't want Black people here? Because I've said this before a million times. It's the institutions. It's the racism, it's the discrimination, it's the redlining. Ooh, oh, that house is up for sale. Come on in. Oh, they see you. Oh, I see a Black person here. Oh, the house is already taken. No, we're not doing any more. We're not doing any more views of the house. You do all that to us. You do the this job application. Oh, no, we've already filled the position. You don't want us here. Many white people in the United States of America still in 2021 do not want Black folk here. And that's the truth. It's historically the truth. It's currently the truth. You just look at the institutions. You look at where you're not. You're not in the freaking newsrooms. That's why we have to do our own. That's why we are doing our own. That's why we are putting together our own newspapers, Black owned, not Black targeted, Black owned. Roland Martin is doing this. Other people are going to be doing this. Have been doing this. Starting out. You don't want us here. I mean, it's obvious. You enslaved us, you brought us here, and now you don't want us here. You don't want us here. You know? You walk down the street, you don't want us here. I mean, I'm telling you, this is just absolutely the truth. And nobody can tell me that's not true. Look at all the discrimination. Jim Crow. We want to pass laws so you can't vote. You can't vote. You can't do this. We don't want you in our hospitals because we're sending you home. We're sending you home. We don't want you here. Oh, I've got a headache. I need tests done. Oh no, take an aspirin, get out of our sight. Go home and die. Dr. Susan Moore on Facebook, those Facebook video journals. Another member of the global Moore family who is now departed because of racists in the medical profession, in that racist industry, which has experimented on black folk and brown folk and native folk for hundreds of years. Go and read Medical Apartheid by Harriet Washington. Go and read that book. Oh, Dr. Susan Moore. How many Facebook videos did she do? They wouldn't allow her to do this. She's telling you she's got COVID or she got sick. And these doctors in her own profession, telling her as a doctor, no, just go home. Don't worry, you'll be fine. And these white doctors, they think, oh, black people don't feel pain. You're a superhero, you see. You're superhuman. You don't feel pain. You're a Black Panther. You don't feel any pain. And so they send you home. They send black women home, and they die. So don't tell me, whoever it is out there that talks this kind of bullshit, that white folk don't want us here. Because many white people, in my view, do not want black people anywhere near them. And they stomach us for just a little time. Whew. Thank God they're gone. Whew. Oh my gosh. I'm glad he's gone past me as I walk down the street. And the bottom line here is that behavior needs to be examined. You don't need a town hall of black people to talk about racism. You need a town hall of white people to talk about it. And you need some anti-racists. That's what you need. You need that. And I'm telling you now, this country will never move on until it addresses and redresses America's original sin.
Please get out of my face. Put your mask on. There you go.
I'm outside. I don't need a mask.
What the fuck do you want?
I want identification. Who are you?
Who the fuck are you? Why do you think that I have to answer your fucking questions? Why do you think that I have to answer your questions, dude?
So who are you with?
It's none of your business. It's none of your business. Get out of my way.
Who are those addressed?
Don't worry about what the fuck I'm doing. Get out of my face. Every time I come around here, motherfuckers like you make my job harder. Please get out of my face, dude.
But you haven't identified yourself.
That's none of your business. Why do you think that I have to identify myself? You ain't seeing nothing. You ain't seeing nothing. Don't worry about who I'm with. It's none of your business.
Who are the boxes addressed to?
You really gonna do this? What's your name? Let's see some identification. What's your name? What's your address? Pull it out. Come on. You live right there, right? Let's go over there and see what your address is. Since you got something to say about it. Right? That's what you want to do? You want to ask for identification?
You're the one in the neighborhood here.
Yeah, that's right. So what? It's a free fucking country, ain't it? You did this. Don't start shaking and crying. What's your name? What's your name, buddy?
John.
John what?
That's all you get.
John what? John what? You come over here asking for identification? John what? I don't give a fuck. Fuck you and your missing packages. You think I'm crying over that shit? John what? You want to ask for identification? Where's your fucking identification? No, that's good. I'll one-up that. Good. Go fucking look for a police officer, you pile of shit. Don't think I don't know why you came over here and stopped me. Because you think I belong in another neighborhood, right? Fuck yourself. You are why people get killed and end up on the fucking news, you pile of shit. You're the fucking reason why. Fuck you. Oh yeah, me? This is where this asshole lives. When I first came on this street, he hollered at me from that window right there. He asked me what I'm doing. I told him none of his business, and he came down here and wanted to talk to me. So now we're gonna talk. $22.55 Clay Street. Bit off more than you can chew, didn't you? Good for you. You heard about the Karen Act, right? So good luck with that. Who's really breaking the law? Okay. Good thing you did this, huh? Good thing this is how you woke up in the morning and decided what to do. This is what you decided to do with your day. What's your last name, John? Hey, John, what's your last name? What's your last name, John? Call them now. You should call them. For what? Tell me what you're calling them for.
Because you're harassing me.
Oh, now it's harassment. Before, it was because I was walking down the street. Now I'm harassing you? Didn't you call for me from that fucking window right there? Didn't you call for me? I was across the street. You called out to me. I didn't come over here looking for you.
Don't harass me, okay?
Hey, nah. Call the cops. Call the cops, please. Please, call the cops. You fucked up. No, because you're an asshole, and this is why people fucking die. Motherfuckers that look like me die because of motherfuckers that look like you. Have you not opened up a fucking newspaper? Can you not look around and see what the fuck is going on because of this bullshit right here? Fuck that shit. Fuck that shit, man. And now, motherfuckers like me, got little fucking handhold recording devices in our pockets. So bullshit assholes like you can't get away with the bullshit you be pulling anymore. So go ahead, call the fucking cops. Call the fucking cops, man. You already said you're gonna call them, right? I'm not evading. I'm not leaving the scene of a crime. That's what you said you're gonna do, right? So call the cops. It's none of your business. You shouldn't have fucking stepped on my toes in the first place. And a younger me would have beat your fucking ass, but I'm not gonna do that. Call the cops. Call the cops. Call the cops, man. That's what you said. Did you call the cops? That's what you said, right? You're threatening the police on me.
No, I'm telling you that if you don't stop threatening me, I'm going to call the police.
Threatening you with what? With words of truth? Does the truth get on your fucking nerves? Look at my face. Look at my face. Yep, that's me. We already got your fucking face on camera. You scared you're gonna lose your job now or your fucking $1 billion funding? Don't nobody feel bad for you. Don't nobody feel bad for you. Fuck out of here, man. You're living up in your fucking mansion bothering me. I'm a hardworking man. What the fuck do you do for a living? You sit on your ass and type behind. You sit on your ass and type behind a computer, huh? So then why is it your business?
Because I ordered something.
Oh, now it's because you ordered something. A second ago it was because I might be a pork pirate. But now it's because you fucking ordered something. You came out of your fucking living room across the street to where the fuck I was at. Fuck that. You called the cops, right?
Please, just leave.
Did you call the cops? Did you call the cops?
I haven't yet, no.
Are you gonna call them?
No.
Fuck out of my face, man. You mean? You fucking clown. Dear Pack Heights. Hey, everybody. I'm not here to steal shit. You fucking happy now? I'm not here to steal shit, you fucking rich assholes. You ain't got nothing fucking better to do? Why don't you go for a fucking hike? Go do something good with your money. Huh? How about that? Go do something good with your fucking money, man. Go do something positive. Instead of sitting in your castle, recording me making an ass out of yourself. We didn't have to do none of this. We didn't have to do none of this at all. I've been here all my fucking life. 30 years I've been in this fucking city right here. And every time I come around here, a motherfucker that looks like you got a problem with a motherfucker that looks like me. You think that's coincidence? You ain't got nothing to say now, do you? Do you? You gotta bother me while I'm doing my fucking job. A hard, honest work living like you assholes always say, hey, get a job. I got a job, right? You motherfuckers still fucking with me. So what now?
That was extraordinary. And that happened here in San Francisco, California. Apparently it was on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. And come to find out that it happened not far away from here at all. That audio you just heard was from an Instagram video post from Lost Soul Courier Collective. Now, Lost Soul Courier Collective delivers all manner of packages to neighborhoods all over the city of San Francisco. And you heard the voice of the man there. And you see the video. You can go to Instagram and go to Lost Soul Courier, Courier, Collective, all one word, on Instagram. And you will see that video that I just played the audio from, 7 minutes or so. Extraordinary. And you will see, the way to know that it is the video that you've just heard the audio from is that you will see a white man in a Boston Red Sox hat, has a red B on his hat. He's dressed in navy blue and in blue jeans, and he's holding up a cell phone video. So that's how you will know that's the video you need to play. Extraordinary audio. This happened this week. It was posted 3 days ago, and it was definitely this week. And I'll tell you why I think it was this week. Is because it was sunny out here. And this week there were, I think from this past Sunday right through, well, there's one of the days this week where it wasn't so sunny. But the whole week generally was very sunny. I mean, this is Pacific Heights where this incident happened. This racist coming up to this guy, and the guy that you heard there is probably either black or brown. There's a moment in the video where you see his hand. He is certainly of brown complexion. Now, I don't know whether he's black or whether he's Latino. He is either one of those or both of those. But the fact of the matter is that here is someone, black man, brown man, minding his business, doing his job. And you've got some whack-ass, crazy, racist white guy coming up to him, and apparently, as you heard there, you didn't hear him do this, but you heard the brother recalling, look, you're the one that shouted from your house from that window over there. And you see the video, he points to the window that you get a glimpse of it. You're the one who shouted at me from across the street. And that's what happened. This guy's minding his business. And this asshole, this racist asshole, screaming at him. And then follows him. And then takes video of him. And then asks him to produce ID. What are we in? 1990 South Africa? What is this? I mean, but this is going on all the time in San Francisco. And he just happened to have a cell phone video out, and he happened to have enough memory and enough battery life to record this racist buffoon following him, stalking him, threatening to call the police on him. This is what we deal with every day here in this country, on this planet, in this city. And that's why I wanted to just go to that cold. I didn't want to prepare you. I mean, I kind of hinted that I did tell you that you were going to hear a 7-minute video or an audio, and you just had to just listen to it. I'm not going to prepare you for it. And I just thought, boom, drop it there, and you just listen to that whole thing play out. And you just heard it. If you listen to all 7+ minutes of it, you just heard that. That's what we deal with as black people, as brown people, and as Asian people, and Native people. That's what we deal with every single day in the United States of America. Every day we deal with this kind of bullshit. And what needs to happen now is that the white people who aren't like this guy, or who don't think like this guy does, and who don't do these kinds of things, but they may have these racist thoughts and feelings, they've got to start fighting that. They've got to start challenging themselves and each other. And that's what's got to happen here. It is the white people of the United States who have to act against white people like this guy. And against white people who aren't as blatant as this guy is. The ones who make the racist so-called joke. The silence in the room that permeates when that so-called joke is made. Challenge the people who don't speak up. If you really want to change the world, as I keep saying, you have to start with you. I have to start with me. We have to start with ourselves. And if we do see some, in this case, racist bullcrap that happens, we've got to stand up and open our mouths and speak up against it. It's like the poet Ella Wheeler Wilcox said, "Those who sin in silence when they should protest make cowards out of men." Yeah, that's almost a direct quote from her. We cannot be cowards, and specifically white people cannot be cowardly about this anymore. And there are more and more, I think, particularly younger white people who are challenging a lot of this bullshit, as I call it, from other white people. I mean, there was a video, I don't have this video, but I saw the video maybe about a month ago of a white boy. He must have been about 8, 9, 10 years old, challenging a 30-something-year-old white male who was sitting on his own porch in a southern city, or maybe it was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania or something, or some suburban Pennsylvania place, wherever it was. I think it was in the South, actually. And on his porch, as he was sitting there, the 30-something white male, was a Confederate flag, battle flag. And I think it was in the state of Mississippi, you know, the old Mississippi flag that has the Confederate symbol, battle flag symbol in it, incorporated in it. I think that flag is no longer now part of Mississippi. I think that's been changed, and it was, I think, by the state legislature or by somebody earlier this year, I think. But there was this video of this white guy, 30-something years old, on his porch, and the flag draped nearby on his house. And there was this white kid, white boy, must have been about 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. And he said, "That's racist. That flag is racist." It's a white boy telling him that. And the white 30-something is going, "Oh, no, it's not. Where did you hear that? That's a bunch of bullshit." That's what he says to the 10-year-old, 11-year-old white kid. "That's a bunch of bullshit. Where did you hear that?" And it's like, no, that flag is racist. That's a Confederate battle. He's even telling him. This kid is schooling a guy that's 20 plus years older than him about what the history is. That's a racist flag. That means violence against black people. That video is somewhere on YouTube. You can find it. I'm telling you, this is what has to happen. And this is why you're getting this legislation now. Ooh, we can't teach this stuff because it might make white people uncomfortable. No, it might actually spur some white people, at least, to wake up and actually challenge all of this racist bullshit and say enough is enough. That's what it's about. Because if a 10 or 11-year-old white kid in some city in the United States can just randomly go up to some white 30-something, white male on his stoop with a freaking Confederate flag and point out that, no, dude, you're racist. That's racist. That flag is racist. That's a 10, 11. If that can happen, ooh, what could possibly happen if we then teach white kids that, your ancestors and your great ancestors owned black people as property, massacred black people in Tulsa, in Rosewood, in Opequochie County, somewhere, all these massacres. What if we taught, and then maybe there'll be more kids challenging white men with these battle flags and these Trump stickers. There's still a Trump sticker around here in San Francisco, not far away from where you heard that audio, where that took place. And Pacific Heights, by the way, is a part of San Francisco. And I'm very familiar with Pacific Heights because I'm literally a stone's throw away from there. And so, I was in Pacific Heights earlier today. Walked through the neighborhood. There was a dog that I noticed this dog bark, rah, rah. And then the owner, a white woman, said, now, stop. And then she apologized to me, which I thought was nice that she did that. Because there are a lot of these dog owners around these here parts of San Francisco who don't do that. They just tell their dog, that's enough. And they don't say anything to me. Like I'm invisible. But that's when you've got people like that they love their dogs more than they do human beings because they think human beings are a complete drag. And yeah, there are some who are. But that doesn't mean I'm going to now be a dick toward every human being because I like pets more than humans. My dog can bark its ass off, but, I'm not going to apologize to you, human being, because I wish I were a dog too. I think that apps like Nextdoor, while useful in some ways to make people aware about and aware of what is going on in their neighborhood, I think apps like that are absolutely toxic. And some of the people who get on those literally make things up and they lie about things that are going on in their neighborhood. Or they take those things out of context. And in some cases, the posts have had to be removed. That's really disingenuous. And a forum like that, where you've got some racists and some fearmongers coming on and making up some of the things that happen in San Francisco or anywhere else, really needs to be banned. And those people need to be banned off the platform. Granted, there are a great many serious things that do happen in neighborhoods. Crime and other situations that happen. Yet what I'm noticing is a growing number of people who are literally flat out lying about the kinds of things that are happening in the neighborhoods they're in. Someone saying that there is a car speeding around in a parking lot of a grocery store at 50 miles an hour. Impossible. That is not happening in the particular grocery store, supermarket area parking lot that this person was referring to. Can't have happened. You would have had people dead, and it would have been on your local news. People just sit there and lie and exaggerate and take things out of context and put that on a social media platform. It's disgusting. Welcome back. I want you to send an Instagram message of support to Lost Soul Courier Collective. I really do. Now, I don't know what the name of the brother is who recorded that video that you heard the audio from a few minutes ago, but I do know that he works for Lost Soul Courier Collective. And by the way, the local newspaper here, the San Francisco Chronicle, had reached out to the Lost Soul Courier Collective and did not get any response for comment. And they did a story on this as well, which appears in the Chronicle from, I think, yesterday or day before. Not the greatest newspaper in the world. I've told you that I do not rate, and lots of people in San Francisco do not rate the Chronicle particularly highly. But that's beside the point here. There's an article about this, because this is what we go through here in San Francisco. I really do want to explode this myth. I know I told you in the past, dear listener, and if you're someone who has listened for quite some time to this podcast, you will perhaps be aware that on one occasion I told you, when I guess in the earlier years that I was living here, there was a white woman who asked me, why do you live here? What are you doing living here? It's just very seriously. And I said, what are you doing living here? I said, what are you doing living here? It's like, really? And I said this before, this is not a podcast designed to make anybody feel comfortable, because it's more dangerous to be feeling comfortable when all of these things in the world are going on around you. It's far more dangerous to feel comfortable with this, because if you feel comfortable with this, what else will you tolerate? What else will you allow? What else will you be silent about? How do you think that Nazi Germany became Nazi Germany? How do you think that happened? The vast majority of Germans, they just sat back and the good German. And what happened? You know what happened. I've read excerpts from the book that I often do tell listeners here to read. They Thought They Were Free, F-R-E-E, by Milton Mayer, M-A-Y-E-R. Subtitle 1933 to 45, The Germans. And this book is excellent. I've read from it before, about how people just sit around and do nothing. They knew what was going on and none of them spoke up about it. They just went along their merry little way and they didn't fight back. And before you knew it, overnight you turned around and it was Heil Hitler all over the place. I mean, it's evil that I even just saying those two words. I should never have said that just now. It just is evil. Oh. It was Nazi salutes all, I'll just put it this way. It was like, this is any better. It was Nazi salutes all overnight. And all you have to do is read a book like Hannah Arendt's book, The Origins of Totalitarianism, and the anti-Semitism, and everything else, the hatreds. And San Francisco, San Francisco's become like that in my view. Not Nazi Germany. I'm simply saying that San Francisco has people in it who know that this behavior is wrong, who know this racism has got to end, and they just passively sit back. And if you heard in the video that I played, the audio, you heard a woman's voice, white woman's voice, shouting out something. And you heard the brother go, me? And you do have these people here in San Francisco, and I dare say all over the world, who back up the racist, support the racist. Oh, yeah, Instead of backing up the brother or the sister who's been attacked, they're backing the racist. Now, there are cases where there are white people who have stood up and spoken up. And more of that needs to happen. A lot more of it, because it ain't good enough. I'm not here to applaud the few white people who do the right thing. This has got to be a full court press. The next time you see someone who's white saying some racist thing to some black person, or attacking them, or attacking an Asian person, you need to do something about that. Whether it's to intervene if you can with safety, or whether it's to call the police. Oh my God. Actually, the police, in these cases, when it's a white person attacking an Asian person or a black person, the police will show up. The question is, what will the police do? Will they attack the Asian or black person, or will they actually detain and arrest the white person who's doing the violence? I can guarantee you what won't happen. They won't do George Floyd. They won't put a knee in that white person's neck. You have to do something. James Baldwin's been saying this forever. We've all been saying it forever. There are white people who've been saying this, the anti-racists who've been saying this. And you've got to become an anti-racist. And you've got to challenge. And you've got to say this is not allowed here. You've got to be willing to disown people in your life. And I don't think that most people are willing to do that. I really don't. I've disowned people over things they've said and the views they've held. I've disowned people who say, homophobic, bigoted things. I've said, no, I'm sorry, I don't associate with you. Yeah, I've done that. I don't want a freaking cookie. This is what I'm saying. It will take things like this. If you really want a better world, you have to start with yourself. And that means you've got to start with local. That means you have to start with familial. That means you have to start with your ecosystem around you. And you have to make those kinds of calls. Because you can always celebrate Happy Pride. And Happy Pride to everybody. But if someone you know who's a friend makes these comments and thinks, oh, I don't think that gay people should get married. Fuck you. Then you have to you have to draw a line in the sand somewhere. And you have to decide whether or not you're going to call them out, whether or not you're going to remain friends with them. You have to make those choices. Do you want to see, oh, I'm going to try to change these people? They're not a reclamation project. People like this won't change. They have to be made to change on their own accord. So you have to make a choice. Are you going to continue to be friends with them, no matter what the friendship's been like? Or are you going to be someone who's going to cut ties? I know people who've ended friendships. I know people who've ended friendships with people. I know people who've had to disown family members. Are you willing to do that? I know people who have. I know people who've said, no, I can't. I'm out of here. I know people who've been cast out by their families. I know people who have said to their families, no, I'm done. I completely disown you. You're a racist, you're a bigot, you're not changing, I'm out. And they've moved out and they've never talked to these people in their families again, their parents, their brothers, whomever. And you know what happens in families, all kinds of dysfunction. But these are the kinds of things that people, you, me, us, are going to have to do. Particularly white people are going to have to do this, are going to have to stand up. And the same thing with, again, if there's bigotry, well, you've got black folks saying homophobic things about other black people or other anybody. You've got to make these calls. Got to make these calls. If we want a better world, we're going to have to start with ourselves and ask ourselves, is what we are actually doing in line with what we are preaching? Is what we are practicing actually in line with what we go out there and preach? What we tweet, what we Instagram, what we Facebook or TikTok? Are we living up to that? Are we measuring up to that? Or is it all just a front? Is it all just a facade? Is it all just a symbolic feel-good exercise? And I don't like that word symbolism, but it does exist. What are we doing in 2021 to try to make this world and this country and the city you live in, the town, the hamlet, whatever you live in, a better place? What are you doing to make you a better person in 2021? As I said before, you need to give a little love to Lost Soul Courier Collective on Instagram. I don't know if they're on Twitter or not, but you need to tell them that you really do support that brother. Let me just read out what this brother posted on Lost Soul Courier Collective. This is the brother whose voice you heard challenging that racist white guy who was following him. What is this? I mean, he really thinks this is 1989 South Africa. Show us your papers. Show us up. I sound like in Italy. Show us your papers. I mean, what is this? Next minute, he'll be telling him to speak in Afrikaans. Speak in Afrikaans. I mean, that's what's coming next. Or he's thinking, like, what is this guy? He thinks he's in Nazi Germany? Papers, please, papers. Achtung, Achtung. Is this what this guy, this is what this is. Oh, but yeah, that happened a long time ago. It's happening now. What do you mean it happened a long time ago? It's happening now. People wearing Camp Auschwitz t-shirts. In 2021. Give me a break. This is the hard truth. This is what people don't want to look at. Some people do. A lot of people don't want to look at this. So let me just read this to you. It's on Twitter. Lost Soul Courier Collective. John asked me to show ID while I'm delivering Narcan in Pacific Heights. For those who don't know its reputation, Pac Heights is one of the most affluent, snobby, and white neighborhoods in San Francisco. It's a neighborhood of old money, unlike the heavily gentrified neighborhoods where new tech money has displaced historically black and brown communities. Everyone who grew up here knows that there is an invisible line drawn on the corner of Fillmore and Sutter that separates Pac Heights from uptown Fillmore, a line which I rarely dare to cross because this type of thing is a common occurrence in my everyday life. On this particular day, I found myself on the wrong side of the line. I was doing a Narcan delivery for the Dope Project, DOPE project, to the 2200 block, 2200 block of Clay Street, when a man called out to me from a third-story window. He asked me what was I doing, and I replied, my job. He asked me who I worked for, and I told him to mind his business. He then followed me to the halfway house I was delivering to and stood in my way as I tried to leave. I've never seen this guy before in my life. I posed no threat to his safety or his property. He threatened to call the cops on me. And after I talked some shit to him, he admitted that it was an empty threat. He explained that things have come up missing in the neighborhood, so it must have been me who stole his shit. I'm guessing that in his mind, I had no right to be walking down his street, and I must be looking for something to steal. I have a strong feeling that he wouldn't have harassed me if I was of a lighter complexion. But this is an everyday thing. When you're a man of color living in America, hashtag always carry Narcan. Hashtag Narcan saves lives. Hashtag harm reduction saves lives. Hashtag Narcan at Harm Reduction Coalition. And there are some comments that you will read. I want you to send a note of love and positivity and encouragement and support to that brother at Lost Soul Courier Collective on Instagram. Tell that brother that you appreciate him and that you're with him 100% and that you stand with him. And tell him about your support and respect for him. Let him know that you do care and that you're going to fight against this against this evil, against this racism, against people like this who are so low and who are pathetic and who the system has completely failed and who are just plain flat out racist. I'm not going to provide any excuses actually for this person because there are none. I'm not giving him an excuse. These people are low who do shit like this. And it's just pathetic. This is a grown-ass man. Does he have any kids? Does he have a wife? Does he have a girlfriend? Does he have some kind of companion? Does he have anything? And he spends all this energy following this person. And by the way, he blocked his way. That's false imprisonment. By the way, that brother could press charges against him. Harassment, stalking, false imprisonment, the violation of the Karen Act that you heard the brother talk about. The Karen Act is an act that was passed here by the San Francisco Board of Supervisors last summer in response to the racist white couple who called the cops on the Filipino brother, the gay brother in Pacific Heights, just a few blocks away from where this happened, and said, "You don't live here. Why are you writing Black Lives Matter?" Remember that? "You don't live here. Why are you writing Black Lives Matter on this area here? You're defacing property." And the Filipino brother said, "This is my property. I live here." And then these white people are telling him, "No, you don't. You don't live here. We've never seen you." Like, what the fuck? Fuck whether you've seen me or not. I live here, motherfucker. And they kept going. "We're going to call the police on you." Can you imagine the trauma? Guy living his life, living in his own building. And these people come up to him. "Why is Black Lives Matter written on your thing?" "What? We're going to call the police. You don't live here." Guy's been living there for 27 years, by the way. These people are, I'm telling you, you think I'm joking. You think I'm just sitting here making this up, don't you? And that brother's still on Twitter. I think his name's Jamie, at Jamie Toons. I don't know if that's still his handle or not. I wanted to get to talk to him, but he'd been doing so many interviews at the time. This is a year ago now, almost exactly a year ago. I think it was June or July of last year, 2020. That he was all interviewed out and he was like, "I'm done." But this is continuing on. This didn't stop. And it's just pathetic, man. I mean, really? You just can't deal with the world around you. That's what I look at with the people who do this. And that's what happens when you are segregated, you're racist, you're isolated, you live in your ivory freaking tower, and you don't have any connection to anything. You're not even connected to yourself. It's like what the state congresswoman said in the documentary there, whichever one of the three it was. I think it was the PBS documentary, Tulsa, the Fire and the Forgotten, when she says, these people are dead inside. That's why they have no problem killing people. Because they've got no connection to themselves. And this guy, what if this guy had a gun? What if this guy had a gun? And he said, "You don't belong in this neighborhood. What are you doing here? I'm following you." And he had a firearm on him. What if that happened? That's happened. It's called George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin. And the cops even, the 911 dispatcher said to George Zimmerman in 2012, "Do not follow him. We will handle this." And I'm sure they would have handled it. These cops, they probably would have murdered him, murdered Trayvon themselves. And this idiot, this freaking racist bum, George Zimmerman, I'm gonna follow him anyway. Wannabe cop, wannabe. I want to follow him. And he was told not to. And what does he do? Gets into a fight with him, points a gun at him, and shoots him in the chest. See, what is he doing? He's told not to. And what if this jackass here in San Francisco, who is saying, my packages have been stolen. What if this guy had a gun with him instead of a cell phone? I'm going to come back and I want to say two other things. One of them should really concern you.
White people are astounded by Birmingham. Black people aren't. White people are endlessly demanding to be reassured that Birmingham is really on Mars. They don't want to believe, still less to act on the belief that what is happening in Birmingham is happening all over the country. They don't want to realize that there is not one step morally or actually between Birmingham and Los Angeles.
The same kids we're talking about now, their real problem is they cannot find in the country any reason to accept anything the country says. And they're very young, so they can't find anything else either. And this is how they end up, for example, on the needle. It's a crime committed by one section of the populace against another section of the populace. And it's a crime which really could destroy this country. What do you think about the police?
I think they have a purpose, but then, again, the way some of these people do you sometimes when they pick you up, stop you. Or like a couple of times they'd be downtown just walking around, they look at you. If you look suspicious, they would just stop you. Like I was going to show one night, me and my wife, and we just happened to go around Market Street, and we seen this police car go by. All right, we could turn the corner. The next corner, they meet us and they stop us. All right, the show starts at 7:45. We were out there till 9 o'clock. But then they didn't have no excuse to stop us, but they stopped us, searched the car, and called in and this and that. And what was the purpose of that? We weren't doing anything wrong. Nobody was mad. Let me ask you one thing. What do police do when they get mad?
What do police do when they get mad?
I mean, we ordinary citizens, and we get mad, and we can do things to hurt people and rob and steal. What do they do when they get mad? Who do they take their steam off on?
I think you know the answer to that question.
Well, I couldn't answer that because the police has never bothered me in that way, but I read newspapers, and I've been living around here all my life, and I see things going on.
Well, when a policeman gets mad, he's got a gun and he's got a club.
I mean, you can...
Yeah. James Baldwin there in Take This Hammer, talking to a young brother, and a young brother talking to him in a conversation in San Francisco, California in 1963. 58 years ago, the spring of 1963. Take This Hammer. That's the director's cut, the original film, which I am going to get to you, I promise. I'm going to post this on Twitter as well, at the Popcorn REEL. I'm also going to put this in the newsletter. It's the original 59-minute edition. 14 minutes or so, 15 minutes or so of which were cut by some some dickheaded jackass at KQED's board of directors. These board members, I wonder who they are. I wonder what they look like. And they said, we cut this out because we can't have something that's inflammatory. Inflammatory to whom? Who is it inflammatory to? The truth that we're talking, our life experience, is inflammatory to you? Fuck you, is my response to that. It's like our life experience, man. It's just the arrogance and the cavalierness and everything else, and the racism and everything else. It's just absolutely, fill in the adjective to describe it here. Again, that's from the film directed by Richard Moore, a member of the Global Moore family, that was released and shown on public television in KQED San Francisco affiliate in 1964. I mean, I'm mentioning these years, and you can tell that they have, any year has significance, but particularly 63, 64, and of course 65 and 67 and 68, particularly. And I've in the Politicrat Daily podcast online store, one of the t-shirts is 1968, which I designed, and it's a very important year, that year. I've talked about it often. But I play that clip of the second clip. I promised I would play another clip, and I have now, of Take This Hammer, which you must watch in its entirety, because this has been going on in San Francisco forever. And this is a continuum, that audio I played earlier, of that racist white guy in Pacific Heights here in San Francisco, is a continuum of what the brother was talking about in Take This Hammer. And James Baldwin said, well, you know what the story is. The cop has a gun and a club. And when he gets mad, these cops use it. Right? Hello? Mario Woods in San Francisco, gunned down by cops a few years ago here in San Francisco. I mean, hello? Oscar Grant, gunned down on a platform at a BART station, Fruitvale Station, in 2009 on New Year's Day, in the early hours of that day, of that morning. Oh, I thought it was a taser, but I shot him point blank. And he got time served, like 11 months or whatever it was. That was what he got, time served. And so he didn't get any additional time. Meanwhile, what the Grant family has is a dead body. And a child without her father. How's that for a sentence? This is a continuum. This is going on all over the country. And it doesn't matter how progressive you think your city is. That's the lie that hides the truth, right? That the truth is just right there, and it's going to come out whether or not you want it to or not. And truth crushed to earth rises again. And the truth will make you free. There's so many people who are not free, though. And they have the ability to free themselves, but they won't. Because they're going to hold on to whiteness for as long as they can. And I do think, dear listener, that there are a great many white people in the world who would rather hold on to whiteness and die with it than liberate themselves and get with righteousness. I really do believe that. Because we're seeing it over and over and over and over again. And if you don't think that you fit into that category, well, the next time someone black comes up to you and has a conversation with you, and maybe you're talking with them, and you have a conversation, whether it's a friend of yours who's black or someone you know who's black, and they're talking about whatever they're talking about, offer them a job at your company. Offer them a job. Talk about a position. Offer them something. Not money. Offer them a job. Offer them something. You have privilege. Now, you all may not be rich and billionaires. You've got privilege. Maybe you know someone somewhere. Get this person a job. Get this person something. Help this person in some way. If you're not like this racist in Pacific Heights. And again, drop a line to the Lost Soul Courier Collective at Instagram. I mean, really, do that because it's important to. Here's the story that I want to get to as well. But before I get to it, I want to tell you about something that happened. I walked down a neighborhood here in San Francisco a few days ago now, just this week as well. I think it was on the very same day that this racist incident happened in Pacific Heights. I was in another part of San Francisco. I think it was Russian Hill. Yeah, it was Russian Hill. And I'm walking through there. And I'm wearing one of the t-shirts from the store, the Politicrat Daily Podcast store at the-politicrat.myshopify.com. Please shop there now. Please. We got the brand new Summer Sensations collection. Please. And it's beginning to hot up with more items added daily. There'll be a new item added today. The first one is the Create t-shirt, which I urge you to go out and buy right now at the store. So please do. I was wearing one of the t-shirts. It was the Stop Asian Hate t-shirt, which was the t-shirt that you've probably seen on the store website at the-politicrat.myshopify.com website, that you will see on the front of it that has the Chinese characters on it. And that means Stop Asian Hate. That's what those Chinese characters are. So I'm walking the street with the red t-shirt edition of that on with the black characters. And this white woman, probably in her late 50s or early 60s, is walking and she says, "Whoa, that's patriotic, red, white, and blue." That's what she said. And I said, yeah, it's patriotic. And then she said, well, you don't need to be wearing that in this country. This is a great country. And I had a number of choices. I could have said nothing. I could have said, go fuck yourself. I could have said, mind your own business. Or I could have said, you are a racist asshat. I chose to say nothing after that. My point was, yes, this is patriotic. Wearing this shirt is patriotic. And that was where I left it. I don't know what you would have done in that situation, but at that moment, that's what I did. There are other moments where I would not have done that. But this happened in 2021, just 3 or 4 days. It was on Wednesday of this week. I didn't go to Twitter to talk about it. I wanted to talk about it here in connection with the audio you heard earlier with the racist white guy harassing a brown or black man who was doing his job, literally doing his employment. And you got this whack-ass racist guy, white guy, following him, asking him for ID. What is this? Asking him for ID. I want your ID. I want to see your ID. Who the fuck are you? You're not a police officer. You're not even off duty. And the thing is, this guy could have had a gun. So this continues. This is widespread in San Francisco. I've had people say N to me. Why? I've had that. I'm talking about white people saying this to me. I haven't had any one black say any of this to me. I've had white people in this town say that to me here. And I was living in New York for so long, never had that happen. Never. Not once. I've been to the South, never had that happen. Well, there maybe one time. And it's happened multiple times here in San Francisco. Recently. Happened this year in San Francisco. Right down the street. This nonsense about, San Francisco's so this and so that. You've got many racists who hide out here. And some of them are Democrats, some of them are Trump supporters, some of them are progressives. They're racists. That's got nothing to do with the political affiliation. Don't be hoodwinked by that garbage. And now, this headline. This is what you should really also be afraid of. This is what you should be afraid of. Saturday, June the 5th, Martin Pengelly from agencies. This is in The Guardian. Disgusting slap in the face. California governor slams judge's assault rifles ban overturned. Can you imagine this? This is what happened. Roger Benitez, a district judge in San Diego appointed by George W. Bush, ruled that the state was unlawfully depriving law-abiding Californians of weapons allowed under U.S. Supreme Court rulings denying their right to bear arms. Quote, under no level of heightened scrutiny can the law survive, end quote, Benitez wrote, issuing a permanent injunction stayed for 30 days. The California Attorney General, Rob Bonta, called Benitez's ruling flawed and said it would be appealed. Now, this California assault rifles ban has been in place now for over 30 years. Since 1989. This is just absolutely crazy. And this judge, this ignorant judge, conservative judge, says, like the Swiss Army knife, the popular AR-15 rifle is a perfect combination of home defense weapon and homeland defense equipment, good for both home and battle. This is just madness. And it's a dangerous ruling. Extremely dangerous. Given what I just laid out to you about that racist white guy in Pacific Heights who's asking this black brother or brown brother for ID. What if he had an AR-15 with him? Good for the homeland defense, home defense weapon. What if that judge would have said, oh no, he's perfectly entitled, following the guy around with an AR-15. Guy just doing his job, delivering things to the neighborhood addresses he's delivering them to. What if he was a U.S. Postal Service person? I mean, this guy would have come up to him too. What are you doing delivering this in our neighborhood? These people, I cannot, I mean, come on now. This is all around you. It's all around you. You can't sit here and pretend this ain't happening. And if it ain't all around you, it's all around people you know. You see this on the news, like the brother said in the audio. Have you opened up a newspaper lately? Have you read a newspaper? This judge is a disgrace. And so Gavin Newsom, the governor of the state of California, he said very clearly on Twitter, at Gavin Newsom, this was yesterday, overturning California's assault weapon ban and comparing an AR-15 to a Swiss Army knife is a disgusting slap in the face to those who have lost loved ones to gun violence. This is a direct threat to public safety and innocent Californians. We won't stand for it. Absolutely right, Governor Newsom. Absolutely right. We won't. And this crazy ruling by this ignorant judge on the federal bench appointed by Republican President George W. Bush. You know, the one that many people out here are cheerleading. Oh, he ain't so bad after all. He only killed 1 million Iraqis and lied. He's not so bad. And, 8,000 service members of the United States military personnel, they only killed 8,000 of them, 6,000 or 7,000 of them. It's not bad. He's a nice, cuddly fellow. He lost his dad. But he feels sorry for him. No, I don't. I don't feel sorry for a warmonger and a war criminal. I don't. He should have been impeached. I don't feel sorry for him at all. I have no feeling for someone like that. And he puts a guy like this on the federal bench. I wonder where your sympathies are now. Because this ruling came just over a week after the mass shooting in San Jose. Do you know the way to San Jose? Yeah, dead bodies. 9 of them. And this judge is going to make sure now that there's going to be a lot more of these mass shootings here in California with these assault rifles. This has to be overturned. You are asking for a bloodbath all over this state. Not that this state hasn't seen bloodbaths in history. It certainly has. Think about the history of California as a state and the gold rush. More like the blood rush and a rush of blood to the head when these white invaders were murdering brown and native peoples, black people, brown people, native people, here in this state for gold, the gold that didn't belong to these violent white men. And what this judge is doing is absolutely ensuring that we're going to have many more violent shootings and mass shootings here in this state. How on earth can you overturn that ban on the assault rifle in this state? It's just despicable. Next minute, you'll have open carry again in this state. And, this is behind the effort to recall Governor Newsom. We can't have him here. He's giving out money to people who are getting vaccinated because it's a distraction. This is bullcrap. This Republican garbage about, it's a distraction. He's trying to get the state vaccinated, you idiots. Jackasses. He's trying to make sure that most people in the state are vaccinated so that this virus can actually kind of recede and go underground like the Loch Ness Monster or something. That's what the governor's trying to do. I've told you many times here, there are things that he's done I am not a fan of, and I've told you there's things that I support him on. I voted for him, like some of you in California did too. Some of you in California did not vote for him. But come on. This is all garbage. This recall, this waste of taxpayer money. This is a distraction. He's giving out money to people because they're getting vaccinated. This is irresponsible. This is a waste of taxpayer. And you're the one wasting the taxpayer money by having a stupid recall election that everybody knows Gavin Newsom's going to prevail in. It's just ridiculous. And then he has to run again next year. So what you're trying to do is weaken him. That's what you're trying to do. And exhaust voters. That's why I do what I'm doing here, because we need to have awareness and we need to be aware of what's going on. And I may not cover every single story, and I'm going to try to cover more. But I will let you know that there are things that you and I can do. We can do these things. We are not powerless, contrary to conventional wisdom, if you will. We are not. Change must happen. Some people are uncomfortable with change. I think by nature we all are to a certain degree. But when it's about change to liberate you, to be better, to do something greater, oh gosh, you should absolutely be jumping at that. And I know there are these mechanisms inside some of us that say, no, you're not entitled to better. You're not entitled to be better. Well, you are entitled to better. And you are entitled to be better. And you've got to do that. We all have to be that better person. Myself included. We all do. I always include myself in all of this. There's work for all of us to do. So let's get out there and do it. And let's do it now. Thank you very much for listening to this edition of the Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore.